You're watching Telecom TV's Spotlight on 5G series. It's Thursday, the 3rd of March, and this is The Slice. Headlines today: Telecom Italia announces split into separate NetCo and ServCo, former FCC chair joins the board of Rakuten Symphony, and MWC welcomes the Metaverse. Hello, I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content for Telecom TV, and welcome to our live programme covering today's news from MWC 22. We're broadcasting live and it's just gone 1 p.m. Central European Time for one final day. Yes, it's day 4 of MWC. It'll soon be time to pack up and head home, but not just yet. We still have more to bring you. Today's show includes insights from Mari-Noëlle Jégo-Laveissière, who is Deputy CEO of Orange, and Rob Shooter, CEO of BT Enterprise. But first, every day this week, my editorial colleagues Maistre and Yanitsa Boyadzhieva have been reporting from the event itself in Barcelona. So let's now see what final selections they have made from their king-size news menus.
It's the final day at MWC 22 in Barcelona.
And incredibly, we're still standing. So before we collapse, let's find out the big news.
Rakuten Symphony has made a lot of noise here this week. And in addition to its acquisition of Robin.io and partnerships with AT&T and Cisco, the disruptive Open RAN vendor ended MWC with a bang, announcing that it has signed up former FCC chairman Ajit Pai to be on its board. People will have various opinions about whether this is a good move or not, but it certainly tells us that Symphony has every intention of being a noisy disruptor on a permanent basis, not just during the industry's biggest trade show. And Trey, there's news from Telecom Italia.
Yes, Yanni, there have been a number of recurring themes here in Barcelona, one of which has been the evolution of the traditional telecom operator, particularly in relation to the impact of software and cloud-oriented operations and the challenges that brings in terms of the transformation of the network operators. But there are other catalysts and pressures too, such as price-based competition. And it's that commercial pressure on top of the impact of corporate and operational evolution that has weighed heavily on TIM, also known as Telecom Italia, in the past year or so. Its response to what could be seen as an existential crisis is a part of its new industrial plan for the 2022 to 2024 period. And TIM has outlined a plan to split into 2 distinct legal entities, NetCo and ServCo, a move just approved by the operator's board. It's more than 20 years since I first heard of this idea for revamping telcos, although then it was to be a proactive rather than a reactive move. And the precise details of how this is actually going to be achieved by TIM are set to be presented by the new CEO, Pietro Labriola, before the company announces its financial results for the first half of this year in late summer. Now, the national operator from Italy also says its assessment of the €10.8 billion takeover offer tabled by private equity firm KKR will be finalised shortly. So we're still waiting for the outcome of that development. And the news comes as TIM says it's set to sell its 15% stake in Italian towers firm Inwit, and as it announces a near 2% dip in revenues and a net loss of €8.7 billion for the full year 2021. So pretty tough times for Telecom Italia all round. Let's turn to another big trend, Yanni.
The Metaverse was one of the most popular attractions on the show floor during MWC. SK Telecom presented its eFlant platform here in Barcelona, which included a 4D Metaverse demo that takes users on an immersive ride on a giant robotic arm, and a virtual land where you can walk and encounter other avatars. I had a go at it and I found navigating my virtual walk a bit clumsy and slower than I'd expect. There were many avatars running and passing by, but no sign of interaction between any of the characters involved. It was fun and an interesting experience, but it would take a bit more for the average user to be really into it. Ray, what are your main takeaways from the show?
Well, apart from noting how happy everyone is to be here and how much business got done, some companies had more than 100 meetings a day, the main focus for the CSPs right now is how to get more out of 5G, and in particular to build their enterprise services divisions and use that as the basis for future growth. Now, the immediate focus is on private 5G, it seems. Everybody wants to talk about that here at the show. But there's a lot more that telcos can be doing to help enterprises transform their businesses and at the same time evolve themselves into digital service providers. It's aspirational and it's going to be a very tough thing to do. Let's see how they've got on by this time next year when hopefully we'll be back in Barcelona again. And speaking of industrial services and applications, what have you been seeing on the show floor, Yanni?
The MWC 22 show floor offered up several real-life examples of how technology, in particular 5G, can be used to make industries smarter and more efficient. Telefonica showcased a logistic management trial which enables collaboration between an autonomous guided vehicle, a robotic arm and a drone using 5G connectivity. It can also detect and report issues happening on the factory floor. The Spanish operator has already installed the trial solution in some factories and hopes to industrialize it by this year. IBM showcased the famous Spot robot dog, created by its partner Boston Dynamics. The robot can scan for issues such as overheating and conduct inspections in hazardous areas. Finally, Accenture presented an automotive solution which uses AI and cameras on a private 5G network to check quality and risk management in the car manufacturing process.
Somewhere in Barcelona there's a restaurant that is missing a couple of its menus. A big thank you to Ray and Yanni for their daily reports from the show floor of MWC 22 in Barcelona. And if you see either of them today around the venue, go buy them a drink, they deserve it. Meanwhile, back in the engine room of Telecom TV, we've been publishing new videos to the website all week and we are still hard at it. There's lots to see, including interviews, panels and features. Plus, you can view all of the previous editions of The Slice if you missed them. And you won't want to miss what we have coming up now though, and we start with Orange. Whilst MWC has always focused on cellular, there are many operators who not only have to deploy and manage 5G, but also fixed line and fibre networks. Ray Lemaitre asked the Deputy CEO of Orange about the challenges associated with accelerating the rollout of converged services across its European footprint.
Convergence is key, absolutely key for our customers. This is what they are willing to get, and the COVID period has accelerated this move. So we need to deliver convergence, and fiber is key. So we need to have both. So it depends, of course, of the country, whether we were, as an incumbent in Poland or more a mobile operator like in other countries. So what we need to have is these two legs, the mobile one and the fixed one, roughly in the same size. It helps. We need also to accelerate in Poland, in other countries. We did the FiberCo in Poland, and that will help us to accelerate with a financial partner. And that's also something that we may consider elsewhere if it makes sense.
Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that telecoms now is all about the cloud, public cloud, private cloud. We've even got a dedicated panel session on the topic today. But where does this leave telcos? Well, Neil McRae, Chief Architect for BT, wants his peers and partners to look to their strengths to leverage the unique capabilities of telecoms networks in the face of the public cloud PR machine.
How do we really step back into the networkification being the thing that people are talking about rather than the cloud all the time? Because we hear about cloud and cloud this and cloud that, and look, the cloud is a fantastic thing, but we're making the cloud real by connecting people to it and giving them that, wherever they are, ability to do what they need to do. And I think we need to kind of step up our game in our part that we play in that, and ensure that our customers recognize the value that we're bringing and the cloud partners recognize the value that we're bringing.
ETSI has been at the centre of mobile standards since the dawn of GSM. The name was, after all, an acronym of the work group that started it all. But looking forwards, what are the key upcoming challenges facing ETSI and the standards community in the years ahead?
One is the emergence of non-public networks, which is rather a disruptive concept. We're saying that the world won't be full of large public network operators. It will be a sea of non-public networks. And learning how to actually integrate that together, I think, is one challenge, because it's not just technical, it involves a change of mindset too. And we see good early evidence that the world is ready for this non-public network venture. And in the same vein, the non-terrestrial approach, where the ideal is that we have a terrestrial network with non-terrestrial elements, and it's all using exactly the same technology, the same air interface. So it's a seamless coverage, if you like. So there's a lot of benefits both in the non-public approach, the non-terrestrial approach, and to me these are two of the game changers that's going to keep us busy for the coming years.
Much of this week at MWC has been dominated by the rise of private 5G networks, but this is a challenging market and telcos will have to compete with the likes of the established systems integrators. So what would give telcos an edge? No pun intended. What would make telcos best placed to be lead partners? Is there an opportunity to up their game in terms of domain knowledge in key vertical sectors?
We recently announced the formation of Division X. Division X is the entity that's going to focus on solution selling for the modern components, particularly 5G, IoT, Edge and Cloud. It's also where we are putting all of our initiatives around the healthcare vertical. We've hired some people to focus on that, and we're going to be expanding that also into transport and logistics in the second half of the year. Ultimately, for us, it's always going to be a combination of wanting to front onto a customer with a solution that is relevant to the industry they're in, but also often working collaboratively with a system integrator or another partner or Microsoft or Amazon to assemble a solution. I think the key thing for BT is we've got to be able to do both.
And whilst telcos have long coveted the enterprise market, it's not always been plain sailing. The requirements of SMEs and verticals have often proved difficult for telcos to meet. Plus, historical relationships and cultural differences have also a role to play. So rather than keep using the same old playbook, perhaps a different approach is required.
We agree. Even as a telecom company, we think we need a different approach to private 5G, and it has to be CIO-centric, enterprise-first mindset. Without that, you're basically taking a telecom solution, retrofitting it to an IT environment, and that's not a scalable or even an economic model. We believe that those players, particularly managed services providers like NTT, they're better suited to provide that kind of CIO-centric solution because they already manage the IT environment. They already manage the security environment. And so it's a natural extension.
Well, it's safe to say that there are a lot of challenges still faced by telcos, some of them well known, some of them brand new. But equally, there are incredible new opportunities for those that successfully transition to digital services providers, and we'll be following these moves very closely here on Telecom TV. In other news today, UK company Stratospheric Platforms has demonstrated the use of HAPS, High Altitude Platform System, using aircraft to extend a 5G service across an area of 450 square kilometres. The trial was conducted at the Red Sea project site in collaboration with Saudi Arabian regulator CITC. A1 Telekom Austria has joined the European Cloud Infrastructure Initiative, Structura X. Its A1 digital subsidiary and cloud solution, Exoscale, will participate in the implementation of the Gaia X standards. To date, 28 companies have committed to the initiative. Cable Labs has been named as the host lab for the US DoD and NTIA's 5G Challenge to accelerate the development and deployment of open and interoperable 5G networks and to encourage new entrants to the 5G market. Intel and Qualcomm are two of the 10 industry vendors that have created an interconnect standard to foster an open chiplet ecosystem. The new specification facilitates multi-vendor component selection for system-on-chip devices. Japan-based operator KDDI has selected HPE's telco server for the commercial network operation of its O-RAN-compliant 5G standalone base stations. The HPE server is optimized for edge applications that require high bandwidth and low latency. And finally, Intelsat has been selected by Orange Mali to bring 3G and 4G connectivity via satellite to remote areas in Mali. According to the GSMA, internet coverage is still unavailable for almost 500 million people worldwide. As well as reporting on the news, we have been running a whole week of special Spotlight on 5G programs. Today is the final day for the playlist, but they will all still be available to watch on demand as part of our extensive selection of video content. As a reminder, our strategy outlook discussions focused on the 5G core, RAN, edge and private networks, and the cloud, running alongside related interviews with leading CSP executives and key vendor partners. We had a welcome rerun of our Top 10 Mobile Moments series, where Ray and I looked back at Telecom TV's 20 years of coverage of MWC, digging through our video archives. We served you daily editions of The Slice across 4 days of MWC with news and analysis from the Telecom TV team. And next week, it's time for the After Show, our live Q&A program where we will be analysing the news and developments from MWC. So don't forget to send us your questions for the After Show. The first one will be broadcast on Tuesday next week, and more details can be found on our website. And of course, we have a viewer poll, so please do take part in that. Today's theme for our Strategy Outlook panel debate is the 5G cloud. And here's a sample of what else we have for you on Thursday, featuring Microsoft, AT&T, Xilinx, and Aruba networks.
One thing that's different is that we have a couple of thousand of telco engineers or people that worked in telco with telco DNA that understands what telco grade means, that build products for telco. So if you just think of average tenure, maybe 10, 15 years, that's a massive amount of knowledge and know-how and a customer base that is different than what some of our colleagues that are coming more from an IT perspective and saying the IT mindset, we can migrate that into the telco.
Obviously, a lot of people are using VPN technology today, but I think as we go forwards, there are some other interesting options. And one of those is what we call the micro branch. So the idea of our EdgeConnect micro branch offering is you have an enterprise class access point running Aruba software, working identically to what it would be in the office. You have that at home, and then it has built-in SD-WAN capability, so it can leverage multiple WAN links, providing really consistent service. It creates, if you like, a little bubble in your home where when you open your work laptop, it authenticates with that AP just like it authenticates at work.
So now if I've got the ability to look at different traffic patterns of users and how the applications are performing against the underlay network, and I can apply ways to predict or analyze certain elements that are behaving in a bad manner, and alert as a managed service provider, being able to take action on some of those alerts and look at it broader across, like I said, networking, LAN, and security to make policy changes to improve maybe that application or that end user experience, or address a threat that we're seeing based on certain traffic patterns across that whole aspect. So I think the element of applying, machine learning and AI into these aspects creates a lot of opportunity.
So I think security is one very important aspect that has to be incorporated, has to be looked into with great care for 5G core. And given that inherently these are complex and moving and on-demand deployments, analytics will play a significant role because traditional approaches to managing the core network and monetizing it may not work. Of course, we need traditional practices, but these practices have to be supplemented by doing AI/ML-based intelligence gathering and traffic prediction, and as well as also supplementing security if there is any anomaly detected in the network.
That's all for today's edition of The Slice on the final day of MWC. But wait, there's more. Due to popular demand and the fact that the crew in Barcelona is in overdrive producing great videos, we're going to serve up a bonus extra slice of MWC coverage. So please join us again tomorrow for our final show. Plus, we look ahead to what's in store next week. Until then, thank you very much for watching and goodbye.